the vacant position must be replaced by other directors. We call them as additional directors. This action is going to benefit for Reserve Bank of India for the proper functioning of commercial banks. Then it is going to take the precautionary measures. If rules and regulations are not good or it must be modified, the Reserve Bank of India it is going to intervene and change certain aspects. Until and unless a new director come into existence, these are the temporary directors who take about all the regulatory aspect of a banking company. Hello everybody, a warm welcome to one and all. I am Mr. Hemant Kumar from the Department of Commerce and Management, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, MYSURU, the Temple of Excellence. In today's session, we are going with the subject Banking Law and Practice, that is Session 2 of Unit 3, Banking Regulation Act 1949 for first semester BCom students. This is agenda of today's session. We are going with the concept of Section 36AB of Banking Regulation Act, that is about power of Reserve Bank to appoint additional directors. So, Section 36AB is going to give a power to Reserve Bank of India for the appointment of additional directors. Section 36AB, power of Reserve Bank to appoint additional directors. According to Section 36AB, the Banking Regulation Act 1949 grants the Reserve Bank of India the power to appoint additional directors to the board of banking company under certain circumstances. Means, Section 36AB give a power to Reserve Bank of India for the appointment of additional directors under some circumstances. Because Reserve Bank of India had eliminated directors of a board of directors, right? So, the vacant position must be replaced by other directors. We call them as additional directors. There are some circumstances that we are going through. The provision is a part of Reserve Bank of India's broader regulatory authority to ensure the sound functioning of banking and safeguard the interest of depositors' financial system, right? So, to safeguard the interest of a depositor, creditor and also a financial system, it is going to take a precautionary measures. Provision under Section 36AB. There are 6 provisions under Section 36AB of a Banking Regulation Act 1949 that we need to know. Power to appoint additional directors. Here, as I said, Reserve Bank of India, it have the complete authority right to appoint additional directors under some circumstances. The Reserve Bank of India can appoint one or more additional directors. So, Reserve Bank of India have a complete right to appoint one or more than one number of additional director to the board of banking company if believes such action is necessary in the public interest. So, simply it cannot change a board of directors or a member of a board, right? So, it is going to go with action only if it is required, which can support a public interest. For the proper functioning of a bank, means this action is going to benefit for Reserve Bank of India for the proper functioning of commercial banks. Then it is going to take the precautionary measures. So, circumstances for appointment. So, there are certain circumstances where the Reserve Bank of India it is going to appoint a new director. Circumstance number 1, due to serious financial difficulties, right? So, due to serious financial difficulties, Reserve Bank of India it may appoint additional director. Circumstance number 2, if there is any governance issue in the banking company, Reserve Bank of India appoint additional directors. Circumstance number 3, current management is facing to ensure the stability and soundness of a bank. So, if a management it doesn't have stability, it failed to reach out its target and it won't follow any kinds of norms or regulations that is given by either Banking Regulation Act or a Reserve Bank of India, it is going to take a strict action. So, what Reserve Bank of India it is going to do in these 3 circumstances? So, in terms of these 3 circumstances, what the Reserve Bank of India it is going to do? Reserve Bank of India it is going to intervene through additional directors. So, it is going to intervene a system by additional director, that is one or more than one additional directors. It is going to help a system by addressing issues like poor management practices. If there is any poor practice of a management structure, it is going to resolve the problems. Say for an example, each and every organization have its own rules, regulations, policies and procedures, right? So here each and every organization management structure have its own policies and procedure. If a people or an individual they fail to follow such rules and regulations, if a rules and regulations are not good or it must be modified, the Reserve Bank of India, it is going to intervene and change certain aspects. Non-compliance with regulations. So if they are not compliant with the regulations that is made by a Banking Regulation Act or a Reserve Bank of India or a banking company, it is going to face a problem of insufficient capital. Means as per the norms of a Banking Regulation Act, banking company must maintain a sufficient capital in stock and also it must keep some percentage of a capital in Reserve Bank of India as a reserve. So a banking company, if it fail to do so, Reserve Bank of India, it is going to intervene, which could threaten the bank's survival or affect depositor interest. Okay, so if it is going to affect the organization survival and financial condition of an organization, the Reserve Bank of India, it is going to take a necessary step. So according to provision 3, override of existing governance. So there is a responsible person who have the right to go against the policy or rules and regulations. Who have the right to go against? That is nothing but directors of a banking company. Means a directors of a company, he have the complete authority to go against certain norms or the regulations which is flexible. The appointment of additional director under this section is intended to ensure that the bank operates in a sound and efficient manner. Okay, so it is going to ensure a banker, he is going to operate a sound and efficient manner. The additional director which is appointed by Reserve Bank of India, they act as a best interest of the banking company and their authority can override existing board's management if required. So they do have an authority to override existing management. Okay, so they can take the actions, they can take the precautions which is going to benefit a financial stability of a banking company or which is going to benefit to reach out a financial objective of a banking company. They do have a right to cross a limit up to some extent which is given by Banking Regulation Act 1949. Temporary measure. So as we learned in a previous slide also, it is a temporary measure that is made by a Reserve Bank of India in terms of a emergency situation. Okay, so if Reserve Bank of India remove a director from a banking company, that place must be replaced by additional directors, right? But the place that is replaced by additional director, it is not permanent, it is temporary. Means he is going to occupy the space of a director until and unless the Reserve Bank of India, it is going to recruit a new director for that particular position, right? So it is a temporary measure that is made by Reserve Bank of India for the benefit of a banking company for some circumstances. Scope and power. The additional director that is recruited by Reserve Bank of India, they do have a same kind of power as a director of a banking company. Means additional director had replaced a place of directors of a banking company. If they are going to replace a place of a directors of a banking company, they do have a complete right of a director. They can take any kind of action, they can take any measure for the benefit of a banking company, right? So this additional director also have a same rights and responsibilities and authority as a director of a banking company, right? So they are not different, they are same. So provision 6, it is going to say about Reserve Bank of India discretionary power. Means the Reserve Bank of India have a special power regarding recruitment of additional directors. This discretionary power is a ability to make their own decisions based on their personal perspective. Okay, so regarding appointment of an additional director of a banking company, right? The Reserve Bank of India need not to take any guidelines from anybody else. Okay, it can recruit a additional director by its own will. The Reserve Bank of India exercises its power at its discretion and does not need to seek approval from banks, shareholders, existing board members to appoint additional directors. So a Reserve Bank of India, it no need to take any kind of the approval either from the shareholders, either from the creditors or any of the management member, whether it is a managing director or chief executive officer, for the appointment of a directors, that is additional directors for the vacant position. Means a Reserve Bank of India have a complete authority or a right to appoint a new director for the banking company without interference of any people from the management of a respective banking company. Okay, because they are not supposed to intervene in between a selection of a additional director, right? So it is a complete authority or a right of a Reserve Bank of India to recruit a additional director for the banking company. Section 36 AC, that is part 2A of 36 AC of a Banking Regulation Act, it is going to say about a override of other laws. Means override means a person who have necessary authority to go against a regulation, or he may fail to follow the instruction or a regulation that must be followed by him, right? A power under section 36 AA and 36 AB of a Banking Regulation Act 1949 with respect to the appointment or removal of directors, chief executive officer or other officials, employees of a banking company. Means this section 36 AC is going to say about recruitment or elimination of board of directors, chief executive officer of a banking company or a managing director or any other personnel of a banking company. There are certain provisions under this act. So the provision says that any appointment or removal of a director, CEO or other officer made under a power granted by section 36 AA or 36 AB of a Banking Regulation Act 1949 will take effect regardless of any other conflicting provisions in. So there are some provisions and circumstances. Whether the recruitment of a board of director or elimination of board of director, whether it is a recruitment of chief executive officer or any other managerial personnel or removal of such personnel. Okay, so there are certain norms or there are some overriding act that is given by Banking Regulation Act. Which are those? The first one is the Companies Act 1956. So currently we are following Companies Act 2013. It is the oldest Companies Act that is followed by only some of the companies, which governs the management of companies including banking company. So as we had studied in a preliminary, that is part 1 of a Banking Regulation Act 1949, we are going to follow a Companies Act 1956. Means there is a provision for the Banking Regulation Act to follow other laws. So that is Companies Act 1956. They are so going to follow a management of companies. Okay, they had picked some clause under a Companies Act 1956 for the management of banking companies. Under earlier law, other law in force. Okay, so under earlier law we had chosen Companies Act 1956. Or contract that banker or its employee may have in place. Okay, so there are certain contracts, for example employment contracts. Okay, so there is a contract of employment for a fixed period of time or a fixed duration or a agreement between a bank. Okay, so internally there is a mutual agreement between 2 or 3 banks, okay, and its officers. Okay, so whatever the contract that is made in a banking company, that comes under or that had been chosen from Companies Act 1956. In the next session we are going with part 2AB of a Banking Regulation Act, that is about supersession of board of directors of a banking company, and also section 36 ACA is going to say about supersession of board of directors in certain cases. Okay, so we are going with part 2AB in next session. Thank you.